Hello everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our Dare to Disrupt webinar, where we're taking a high-level look at digital transformation and what that means for your business with where we're at with technology, the internet, and all the data that's available to us today. My name is Brad Vorbeck. I work in marketing here at Turnkey Technologies. We also have Rokas Varanavicius with us, and he's going to be doing today's main presentation. For anybody who's not familiar with Turnkey, we are a business solutions provider located in St. Louis, Missouri. We're focused primarily on Microsoft solutions for finance and operations, customer engagement, and business intelligence, as well as the cloud-related services that go along with those. If you have questions, please feel free to ask them using the GoToWebinar panel, and we will get those answered at the end during a Q&A session. And as always, this webinar is being recorded. It will be available to watch after we're done presenting here. It should be about 3 to 5 business days, and we will also send that to you in an email as well. So thank you again for joining us, everybody. And with that said, Rokas, I will go ahead and hand it off to you.
Thank you, Brett, and thank you everybody who's attending. I'm very pleased and happy to chat about the subject that is very interesting to many of us, digital transformation and what it is. So first of all, before I dive into the details, let's put a couple basics in place. Got to understand that, like Brad was saying, we are a solution provider, business challenge solving problem. And we work with a number of different customers from different walks of life. They bring different experiences, different challenges, different objectives. So we hear some form and some way similar set of questions that relates to, how do I do what I do a little bit better? How do I make more money, save more money? How do I delight my customers? So we have a lot of similar sort of things that we receive as requests, and we put this webinar together to maybe shine some light on what's been going on, what are the things that are potentially triggering audiences to think about doing things differently next year and so forth. And obviously, we're coming up at the end of the year. Everybody likes the New Year's resolutions, and we usually think about being the planners for the entire year. But why not to jump on that train and say, look, let's talk about what can we do differently next year than what we've been doing this year. But before we dive into what the transformation, digital transformation is, what it means and what can you do with it to make your business better, let's take a look at a little bit of the history to understand where the future can take us. So if we think about events that really transform the way we did as human things that we've been doing, let's look at a couple key milestones. Steam, 1763, James Watt invents or upgrades the steam engine design that became more or less a design that was applicable to be used inside and in smaller spaces. And the things changed for us. We were able to manufacture things, push things, pull things, transport things in the way we didn't before. We used animals before. Now we have machines to do some of the work for us. Obviously, we as humans have limited physical strength and capabilities, so we rely on other things. Steam changed that for us dramatically in manufacturing, in agriculture, in transportation. So as you see, that is very major event that transformed and how we as humans do things. Electricity, 1870, light bulb invented. A lot of other inventions sort of resulted into that change. I don't think we need to really talk too much about that, but we understand that we can do a lot of things differently because we have electricity. And obviously, take that concept of electricity and let's talk about putting a digital spin on it, applying the electricity, in essence, doing a steam equivalent in an electronic world where we actually have somebody else doing some calculations and some logic and some other things that potentially could be done within seconds, opposed to us humans taking some extra time to do it. And now we are in the point in time where digital potentially is starting to change a lot of different things the way they are right now. So if you think about it, electricity, if we take that as a concept and we look at this picture in here and we think about it, all right, if I have a factory and now I want to put electricity in it, Do I have to actually build a new factory? Do I have to get a bunch of engineers to engineer the machines and manufacturing processes for me to take advantage of electricity? Or can I take actually a simple, cost-effective step to turn the lights on? So the point in here is that if I turn the lights on, my staff can start work earlier, work later, work 24-hour shift. Obviously, no three shifts. But the point is that people can be more productive doing the things in the same factory, same facility, same staff, but now can do it safer. So now we can potentially extend production hours. Now we can improve the safety environment for the folks that are working in there. It doesn't mean that I have to go and expend a lot of money and expend a lot of time doing, trying to take advantage of the things that are available, like electricity back in the day, but it means that I have to start taking some small steps. And you know what, down the line, maybe I can get the electronic machine instead of steam machine to be more productive. But right now, I can start taking some of the simple steps. That is just a quick example of what we think about a digital transformation. There are a lot of things going on. The journey is open, it's wide. There are a lot of opportunities, but we don't have to take all of those things in. So today I hope to be able to dive in a little bit and then show and shed some light on what are the things that other people are doing. What can you do? So with that said, let me kind of throw some facts. So if we think about what are the forces behind digital transformation, data is one of them. I mean, we have the zettabytes of data being produced right now on the web worldwide. We are talking about 163 zettabytes annually by 2025. I mean, that is a huge jump in the data. What is that data? Where is it coming from? How is it used? When we start talking about how is it used, analytics, there are a number of different things that everybody would potentially like to have some answers, but we don't yet. So this is an opportunity where digital transformation is introducing more tools, more functionality, more needs, more excitement about it, where people actually are getting to pay more attention to it and then see what we can do and how can we drive the things that specifically affect what we do and how we do those things within our businesses. So other thing is, everything is shifting to the cloud. So if you look at the projections, 1 trillion in IT spends in the cloud by 2020, that is a huge shift. Instead of us saying as an organization that no, we're going to have our data and we're going to rely only on our data, we're going to produce our data, we're going to eat our own data and so forth, we're saying, look, let's move to the cloud. Let's open up the channels. Let's take advantage of a lot of things that are out there already, maybe used by other companies, by our peers and so forth, so we don't have to reinvent that thing as an organization individually. So we can take advantage of that growth potential. So other couple things to kind of throw in there to add a little bit more weight to my words is, right, let's take a look at, on the left side, devices. You know what, if you look at drones, in 2007, the drone cost $100,000. Now you can buy some for under $100. If I look at the stats in here that I have on the screen, in 2013, really the breaking point was that drones were available for $700. So when you think about the cost of the technology going down for some of those things that we have available to us, that's a significant driver for people, organizations, taking advantage of using the things in the personal lives as well as the corporate world, where we can, once again, push the envelope on how we can delight the customers, how we can make our staff more productive and so forth. And a couple other interesting things. 1984, $30 for the solar panel, 16 cents in 2014. Sensors, from $30,000 to $80,000 to $80. I mean, right now you can even get some of the sensors in a much cheaper time point. My most favorite one is smartphones. I mean, $500, $600, $700 when they came out. Now we can get them for free if you sign up with a certain plan. Now, what that is important is that we as individual consumers get used to some of these technologies, and we tend to expect to have similar sort of experience or options available to us within the corporate environment when we interact from business to business side. Now, the other thing is from the scale and pace of change point of view is when we think about what it took, how many years did it take for the company to reach a $1 billion or more valuation. I mean, typical Fortune 500 companies, the old ones, 20 years. Google, Facebook, 6 to 8 years. Now when we look at some of the Uber-like success stories, it's 4 years. A lot of companies even reach those sort of financial goals within a couple of years. And that's amazing. And they're not doing that because they have a lot of people writing the technology specific for them. They are taking advantage of what is out there, what is available, and driving their success based on that one. So once again, the purpose in here is to talk about digital transformation. Is it real? What is it? As you see, I mean, we see the trends, we see why and how these things are getting empowered. So let's take a little bit dive into what is it. Let's try to define it, but instead of talking about some hypotheticals, let's talk about specifically your organization. You know, what sort of experience do you have? And let's start building from there. Then what we're going to do, we're going to take it up high, going to take it a little bit into the clouds, dream big, and then we'll take it down and we'll talk about specifically what are the specific actions available potentially for you to take tomorrow, next week, maybe set the New Year's resolution and kind of go from there. So as you see, what are you doing right now? That's a question. Think about it. If you have an ERP system, what do you have? And most of the companies will have an ERP system. You'll probably have customers, you have vendors, you'll have some contacts in there. So you already know starting off somewhere, you don't have to have the salespeople or accounting people to enter that. You will potentially have sales or purchase history based on the products, territory, and sales rep and so forth. You'll have some purchase history, some basics, which products, which services, how often, how frequent, who bought them. If you sum up those details, you potentially can derive the life-to-date, year-to-date values, last year-date sales, and so forth. You probably can calculate margins on customers, on products, on reps, and so forth. So P&Ls, inventory, and so forth. As you see, you potentially have already certain treasure chest within your corporate walls. But what do you do with it? When we think about it, and I'm using Dynamics 365 as an example in here, I mean, that could be a number of different systems, number of different platforms, as I will kind of show you a little bit later today. But we as workers, we will do the time entry. We will have some support cases, some service requests. We'll do some forecasts for manufacturing, for hiring people, for staff levels, for financial forecasts, and so forth. We will run some projects, whether it's official IT project or initiative within our company and so forth. So we kind of already do these sort of things that are interconnected, interrelated, and so forth. Then we add Office. You know what? We will do forecasts in Excel. We'll write email in Outlook or Google or whatever. We'll share some documents in collaborative spaces. We'll share them on Z Drive and stored on some sort of server and so forth. We can already do these things. What I'm trying to show in here is that more and more all of these things are kind of interrelated and interconnected. When you look at it, we share the drive with somebody who is in our network, outside of our network. We work with the prospects, we work with the customers, we work with the communities, we work with the partners in the industry, whether we have a proposal or we have a project or whatever, and we kind of have all of these, you know, not maybe directly linked relationships, but we have as humans, as organizations, as we work with our teammates within our organizations, we have all of these things sort of interrelated. So the question is, you know, what does a data structure look like? Where does it live in your organization? How is it used? Is it connected? Is it connected in such a way that you as an organization, you as an individual contributor within an organization can potentially make some decision, take some action? Can you potentially work on a project with one of your industry partners and say, hey, by the way, I know that somebody else in another department is also working on the project with you guys, so let's kind of combine efforts and let's make sure we're okay working together on that project and you have enough allocation. I mean, we run in this all the time, or we say, yeah, now what are we going to do this, and who is the person on your side to help us with the data testing? All right, this person. We get the name and we say, look, you know what, we know we have another project going on with your organization. That person is leaving on maternity leave next week. Did you know that? Oh no, we did not know that. Well, now you know you're committing somebody to us to say we're gonna have that person assist with 200 hours of testing in the next month and a half, and we're telling you that that person is not available. So now, you know, if we commit to that process, potentially that is a big exposure of risk from us from delivering the project on time, but we solve that because we are interconnected, because we understand, we see some nodes and we understand where those things are. This is just a quick example of you know where that would take. So with that said, that simple example right there is, you know, connection, intelligent action really is what digital transformation is. If you look at the things that you do, if you take the data, take the information, and if that enables you to take some action, that's really what the digital transformation is. So now let's start extending in our journey, and let's kind of start going towards the clouds in here. Let's talk about some of the future things, some of the things that are out there. Internet of Things. I'm sure some of you have heard of it. Some of it might have heard, but it's a bit fuzzy, but let's think about it, what it is, Internet of Things. And I'm just using this as one of the examples where, you know what, this is sort of the thing that maybe it stretches our imagination a little bit. Maybe it seems like it's out of the reach, but I will want to talk today about how that maybe is not that far out of the reach. This is one example where we can say, you know what, if I can grab this, if I conceptually can understand what this is, what else can I do? Maybe Internet of Things is not directly applicable to you. Once again, today's conversation is just an example. It is designed to facilitate some thinking processes for you guys to see, you know what is applicable? What can I do as an organization, as an individual to advance my agenda in delighting my customers, making bottom line impact, whether increasing the sales or saving the money or helping the staff to be more satisfied with the work they do and the tools they use. So with that, things. Internet of Things is things, tools, computers, robots, devices, sensors that are connected, that produce some data. When we produce the data, what do we do with that data? We put some analytic reports on it. We put some rules. We maybe take some actions. And maybe when we know that the oil is about to burn up in an engine or the pressure is running too high, maybe we proactively send out a service and maybe we fix that truck that otherwise would have not been ours to fix because they would have just bought a new one since that would break down, or maybe they would take it and fix it and rehaul it somewhere else instead of just changing the oil and giving business to us. So there are a lot of opportunities of what that action can mean and how that can translate into dollars and cents for your business. Now, if I talk about this in 4 simple steps, that's pretty straightforward. But if you think about it, right now I have to invent the things, I have to invent the connectivity, do data and all this stuff. Well, it's not really quite true. A lot of these things are already available or are part of the platforms. A lot of the things that I'm talking about in here are really available for you to more or less consume, configure, use it to your business processes. I mean, here are a couple examples. I'm going to dive a little bit deep in here, but once again, conceptually speaking, we have a platform where we can register devices, we deploy the rules, pull analytics, and as you see the cloud in here is in essence your central hub. From there, we can pull the data and push the data to the devices, which ecosystem already exists. We can literally go in, buy some sensors, plug them in, configure the rules, put the rules to trigger some integration to Microsoft Dynamics CRM, Salesforce, Oracle, SAP, whatever. You don't have to build everything from scratch. It's there, it's available, it's for you to use. Now, here's another example. I can literally go in, use some tools, start things in minutes, and end up with a solution on the right side where what is highly customized for me. Once again, I don't necessarily need to go in and buy the server and build everything from scratch. There are a number of tools available that are already integrated, already working together, that can give you a huge advantage of jump-starting the things that you guys want to do. Simple example. Well, I have this, truck in the screen in here. is Uber. Let's talk about Uber. They did not build a lot of things themselves. They used the technology. Did you know that Uber is actually using Microsoft face recognition technology to have their drivers authenticate and sign in? They did not go and spend millions or billions of dollars in rewriting the algorithms and how to use the facial expressions and do the research and spend years and years and years in that. They say, hey, there's a technology available. Let me go and more or less use a configuration wizard and use that for my advantage. That is practical example. Here's another practical example. There are airline engine providers who track engine performance. They track that real time. They get the details, and if they see any issues, they can track the reports and understand what is going on. And I will dive a little bit more details, but realistically, that information can be translated into real-time actionable items that are derived based on analytics, and it can save hundreds and hundreds of hours of delays in flights on a daily basis. Now, grabbing the data, doing this transformative thinking really is not that useful unless you have some sort of business objectives in mind. Visualization. Why do you want to visualize? What sort of dashboards do we need? What actions we're going to take? How quickly those actions will need to be taken and so forth. I mean, there are a lot of things that kind of start getting complex when you start thinking about how is this applicable to my business. So with that, I do understand that if I, once again, use a IoT project as an example, it can be complex. It can get, hairy pretty quickly. Long timelines, hard to scale, difficult to customize, and so forth. But once again, it doesn't have to be. There are a number of different tools, solutions, and options available where we can do the things in much quicker way to deliver the value to market for you. So here is sort of a little bit more in-depth diagram that says here's a device. If I drop it in, I do some C# simulator, write some code. It pushes the things through the web interface. It throws things into the IoT hub. IoT hub is connected to some rule engine, and the rule engine pushes the data or don't take any actions and then put the details for the reporting purposes only. All of these things are in place. One thing that is missing is, what is my business case? Why do I want to do it? What is the value for me? What is the value for organization? Who is my team who potentially going to be able to take advantage of this? Are we going to be able to take advantage because we've been doing the things in the old-fashioned way, or do we need to change how we as an organization think to be able to take advantage of this thing? Because you know what, sometimes going in and taking a couple steps back and looking at this thing and say, look, these things are available. This is a platform. This is something I can take advantage of. What do I know about my industry to take advantage of, where if I can deliver something quickly and drive value in a short period of time, then that is a valuable engagement for me to look into. Now, real-world IoT cases, once again, there are organizations that track aircraft, buses, dogs, cows, oil equipment, racing, manufacturing, engines, and so forth. I mean, these are just subset of the small set of examples. I mean, there are a lot of options available for where we can track devices, produce the data, do something with the data that comes in. I mean, obviously, LinkedIn, from a human capital management perspective, is a huge thing. We see people changing their jobs. Well, are we taking advantage of knowing that, hey, this is my prospect, or this is a person I worked on the project, or this is a person who was purchasing products or services from me. Now they moved to another organization. Now I need to figure out how do I replace that contact in the current organization, and then can I advance my agenda? Can I talk to the other organization and say, look, you know what, you already know us as a purchasing agent. You had a good experience with us. We had a good relationship. Can I have an opportunity to also provide some services or some products in your organization. Once again, I'm using this IoT as just a simple example of saying, look, now what we have, the things that are connected, and they are further along than a lot of us think, because we think, oh, I need to do this. I have a buses I want to track, and I want to be able to track driver's time and location of the bus and some other things. So now I have to go in and then do a lot of engineering. No, you don't. There are devices, there are manufacturers who provide you that option to connect, plug and play. The question for you is, what are you going to do with it? So I hope you can take some of these examples and some of these concepts and translate to what is most relevant to you, what is top of your mind for you, and think about it. What can I do with the things that are available to me? So now, when we talk about the things that are available to me, I just want to kind of shed some light on some of the things that are available within platforms. Today, I mainly am talking about Microsoft platform, but you know what? There are other tools available, and some of them can work together. I mean, we definitely think that Microsoft has a most inclusive sort of platform that interconnects and then has a lot of advantages that offer to using all of those tools together. But if you have some other industry-specific tool or some tool that you already have invested, you can potentially take that tool, plug it into this platform, and see what can be done with what you already have, and how can you take advantage of the other things available in the market. But if you look at the cognitive services in it, we have vision, where we can do the face recognition, as I said, feelings, and then so forth. So that can be used a number of different ways. Speech, that's obviously pretty straightforward. It can go from anywhere from a call center to notification to confirming appointments to taking the surveys and so forth. Think about it. What can you do that is beyond simple sending an email? Language. We have a number of different applications, real-time applications where field staff, sales staff speak to their phone, will transcribe that to text notes that are stored in the file. So we don't have to record the message, but we can transcribe simply without having people needing to type anything in there. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Knowledge. Tap into knowledge-based articles. Tap into bots where you can say, look, here's a pool, here's a lake of data. Ask me a human question. I will derive you what is your average dollars per sale. What is your average cost of the ticket for this year versus last year that you sold? What is your average recruiting cost, average staff salary at a certain level, and so forth? I mean, all of those things can also be part of the mix of these cognitive services, where we're taking the knowledge, we're taking the database, we're taking some reports, and we're replacing them with the speech, with the language. We're translating that to build a user interface that helps you and your customers to interact and then derive the value you need, or derive the decisions that you need from all the data that you have. And then we have labs. So there are simulated environments where you can use devices, use test scripts and other things like that to validate your solutions, to validate the compatibility, to address bugs and so forth. So there are these sort of things that are already available for us as organizations to use, but we don't have to bring in 200 people to do some testing, where we can actually run some scripts and then have the application in essence be tested in a number of different devices without us necessarily even owning some of those devices. So there are a lot of great things available from a number of different providers. Now, the interesting set of facts is, when we think about the cognitive service, when we think about the sensors, when we think about all the data and transformation and so forth, we kind of have to think about, well, what is going on in the world? And when we look at, I think it was 2016 or 15, the annual internet traffic has surpassed 1 zettabyte of data. Well, 1 zettabyte sounds exotic, but what is it? Well, it is 1 trillion of 1 gigabyte drives, or it's about 2 billion years of music. So when you think about how much data we transfer, where's the data coming from? What do we do? Now, some of it is sensors. I mean, City of London, I believe, don't have a single public space that is not monitored or recorded by a video camera run by the city officials. You know, that they have issues with the crime, so they try to monitor that. Well, that has to travel somewhere, has to be processed, has to be notifying authorities in a timely manner to take an action and so forth. So just having the data and having this that video streaming doesn't really do anything for us. Microsoft has data centers and monitors number of transactions to identify security threats for the data centers for particular organizations, for online environments and so forth. Once again, that data is transferred, there's data that is created, there's data that is monitored by humans, by robots, by rules and so forth, and some action is taken on it. So as I'm talking about these things, doesn't one thing come to your mind? All right, we're getting more and more connected, we transfer more and more data, we are starting to make more and more decisions automatically that potentially tell us what is an action that we need to take. I mean, really, that is what digital transformation is. So when we think about it, you know, I talked about the future, I talked about the velocity of how fast the things are changing, how fast the things are demanding our ability to take an action, to be competitive, to stay competitive, to maybe even be relevant within X number of years in the future. And I'm talking about 3 to 5 years. What are the services that are being provided right now that potentially makes us obsolete? Once again, let's talk about Uber, let's talk about taxi drivers, let's talk about, you know, some other markets that potentially got eliminated by steam engines, by electricity innovation, and other things like that. So this is another thing. Market for the IoT by 2020, $1.7 trillion. 25 billion of connected things by 2020. Now, those are the forecasts. Maybe that's no forward-thinking, optimistic sort of scenario, but if I go in and look at some of the other market analysis and I say, look, all right, let's look at hardware sales forecast. As you see right here, 2017 is that little blip on the left side. And this is just, you know, your network, your storage, your data centers, your typical hardware things needed to support artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and so forth. So as you see right here, I mean, not only the software market, but also the hardware market is looking at this and saying, look, you know what, we really need to forecast this, and then here's how it's looking at, so let's make sure we can really ramp up. And as you see, I mean, in just 3-4 years, we're talking about doubling of what's going on right now. So the question is your organization ready to potentially do something differently, or at least keep up with what's going on in here from your customer and from your vendor expectation? Now we can be talking about this is not being far stretched, but it's not. I actually had played with these sort of things where we're talking about augmented reality. I mean, you can use this for an entertaining value. I mean, you can, you know, have a special set of glasses and look at the things being popped in your environment where you can interact with them. We can also talk about the same thing being applicable in real world. Here's an example of somebody having an augmented reality experience. They can see the sensors providing the live feed right there on the equipment. You can control the equipment. I mean, who can control audio system at home, or thermostat at home, or some other devices within your personal lives, from a mobile phone, from your smartphone, from your computer? Can you have a camera that is recording security footage around your house that is broadcasted into the cloud and stored in the cloud for X number of days? I mean, that is the stuff that's going on right now in the personal life. Well, why can't we do the same thing in the corporate world? And as you see, the cost is going down, so more and more companies are taking advantage of this. I mean, back in the day, we had a barrier to enter the market that was the cost, the significant investment, of learning the markets and so forth. Well, now I would almost argue that there is maybe even more cost in some scenarios to actually stay in the market opposed to the enter of the market, because somebody who's not constraints with the organizational thinking that, hey, you know what, we've been doing this for 30 years and it's been working for us, could come in and say, look, why wouldn't you do this something differently that completely makes sense and nobody else is doing it? And here is technology to enable it. So, there are risks to potentially do nothing. And here's another example. I can do the medical studies. I can see the specific details. I don't have to rely on books and so forth. And I can do engineering. And all of these things are currently available. So these are some of the examples that I was talking about. Rolls-Royce. For you who might not know, they are one of the leading manufacturers of the airline engines. They use the technology to track and understand what are the components, performance within the planes, within the engines. Are there any risks that potentially mean that the plane will be held up for maintenance and airports, and they can proactively take advantage of knowing where the plane will be, how long it will be there. They can ship their staff and parts needed to address a particular issue. So if something is identified that needs maintenance, they can communicate with the customer, they can communicate with their field staff, they can get the parts, and they can potentially address some of the issues in a timely manner while the plane is refueling and then being ready, getting ready for the next flight. So as you see, these are some real world examples, and obviously, this is a sizable organization with a sizable operation, but once again, they're using the same tools that are available for much smaller scale application where, you don't have to get all of these fancy things to be rolled out, and you don't have to, as I said, rebuild the factories and then do everything from scratch. But can you take advantage of some of the things right now? Can you start learning as an organization what are the key valuable decision points, valuable time elements that requires you to respond within a certain time frame to potentially take some action? What are the key cost areas, key opportunity areas where, if I could deliver some service in a cost-effective way, I could take advantage of it and double my production. So here's another example where, we're talking about the monitoring, have devices, monitoring the flow, monitoring manufacturing, monitoring the production. Can I have a user interface like this where it says these components are operating in optimal scenarios, but some of them are not. So as you see right here from that user interface on the right lower side in there, I have a create ticket button. I can click on that one. Ticket is generated, telling me specific about equipment piece, location, specific notes on what is wrong, what is suspected, and organization potentially can use that ticket to dispatch the staff. They know where the staff is, they know what they're working on, they know what priorities the staff has on their plate. I can literally put the ticket on the scheduling board for that staff member based on the skills, based on availability, based on seniority, and then other things that are important for that particular ticket. And I'm talking about all of these things are available, all of these things are really configurable, that can be used in the small chunks, not necessarily requiring the big bang multi-year sort of development effort. But the important part is that helps you as an organization to start strengthening that muscle of thinking about, what can I do differently? What is opportunity for me to satisfy my internal customers, my staff, my shareholders? What is my opportunity to satisfy my external customers? So as you see in here, once again, my internal customer is scheduler in here. She doesn't have to keep the whiteboard, doesn't have to keep the paper files. The system can tell me what skills are needed. The staff members can potentially receive their schedule on a mobile device. In this case, I'm showing an iPad. The mobile device can tell me where the customers are, can tell me where my jobs are, and can provide me an interface where I can go in and say, here's my schedule for my day today. I'm going to change the status to I'm traveling, I'm en route, here are my notes, here are the things what happened. I can take all of those things in real time. They can be pushed back into the operating system where real-time dispatchers, the managers, the client decision-making team can potentially have that information available for them. Here are a couple of other examples of some simpler KPIs. Can we simply understand when the forecasted opportunities will close? Can we look at the last year's sales numbers and compare them to this year's sales numbers to understand if we're doing good, not doing good? How are our margins increasing or decreasing? I mean, there are some simple questions that can be asked right now that re-looking at those questions with a modern technology can shed a lot of light and actionable decisions that can be made if you ask the right questions. So those are the things to kind of think about it. I mean, there are some other examples where with the contract renewals, where the contract's renewed on time. This is that colorful graph on the left lower side in there. You know what? Here is my contract renewals for Chicago, New York, St. Louis, some other areas. All right, can we simply have the team start looking at collectively at, all right, we are due to renew these contracts. Are we ready to renew them? Do we know if we had any issues with those customers? Have we conducted any sort of annual reviews to make sure that the customers are satisfied? Have we explored opportunities with those customers? Now, once again, we were at the high sort of level conversations when we talked about dreaming big and using the cognitive services and so forth, but can we take it a few steps down? Can we potentially say, you know what, here are some simple things we can start doing right now. We can start using the platform, can start using the technology, potentially start looking at asking the right questions and see, you know what, can we apply some cognitive services and say, can we use artificial intelligence to identify potential issues with some contract renewal based on number of cases they had or type of the cases or past due payments or something else like that, where maybe we don't have to look at millions of dollars worth of contract renewals, but maybe we can see a couple of the key ones that, you know, the bots flagged as needing a little bit more attention based on some historical performance of what we've seen with our customers. I mean, another couple of graphs in here on the right upper side in here that with the orange bars is, right, set the goals. Professional organizations, you know, utilization goals from timesheet point of view, performance goals based on number of phone calls made by call center agents, number of sales dollars and so forth. All right. A lot of organizations we find don't necessarily think in goals. So we can talk about all fancy technology and all shiny objects and so forth. If organization is not necessarily ready to think in terms of what is my objective, why I'm doing this, what am I trying to drive, what is the clear sort of key points that I'm trying to derive from the data, from my technology initiatives, then we're not necessarily really gaining anything. We're just adding more confusion and adding more challenges to organizations. But those are the simple things we can start thinking right now to start getting ready personally and then professionally from organizational point of view to make sure that we are taking advantage of the things that are available for us and going to be more and more readily available in the next 3 to 5 years. So couple, obviously, other things everybody likes, bringing the data and then using a number of different reporting devices. So I can do the things from a mobile phone, from my tablet, from my desktop, and obviously the experience should be a little bit different, but still key data points should be very, very much the same. So when you think about it, there are some kind of key main things that have changed or have transpired or been evolving, so to speak. Think about it, you know, if I am an individual, I'm an organization, I will potentially want to have a strong identity, meaning, you know what, I want to be able to log in and I want to be able to look at my phone or look at my home computer, look at my office computer and potentially derive the same data. So as you see, you know, there are some inherited challenges that potentially comes in with that. How do we connect these things that are outside of our organization? I mean, when I was starting this presentation today, I talked about document sharing. Let's talk about something simple. I have a document. I can share that within my organization. It's on the Z drive in some server storage that sits in the broom closet. All right, that's fine. Everybody from within our organization can get access to it because they're on VPN, even if they're remote. All right, fine. That could be solved that way. But if I want to open up to my industry partners, to my customers, to my prospects, and have them collaborate together with me, well, that becomes a bit of a challenge from a security point of view, from logistics point of view, because I cannot add every customer to my VPN from a cost and from an administrative point of view. So the thing that kind of comes to the picture is, we're having to have a strong identity where we can pull a lot of these sort of players together, but still say, you know what, I know who you are, and based on the settings in Salesforce and Office and Xbox account and whatnot, here are the things that you can do within those platforms. So if we look at the old world security perimeter, it used to be you have users, you have devices, you have apps, and everything kind of sits in the on-premise, and then you can have the control, and that's kind of a little bit easier to maintain and then keep track of it. Well, as I said, these days we have a little bit more open set of requirements where we kind of have to make all of these things that are outside of your corporate world interconnected, interrelated, and then work together. So when we think about the digital transformation, we can kind of start bringing some silos where we say, look, what, we can think in terms of engaging your customers, empowering employees, optimizing operations, or transforming your products. So what can you do now? When we think about, we have CRM data, which will be your customer service, your sales, your prospecting, marketing, and so forth. We have some ERP data. Let's mash it up together. Once again, I'm using Microsoft branding in here, but there are a number of different other things that can be brought into the picture. Your sales tools, your marketing tools, your analytical tools. We think that Microsoft has the very sophisticated platform. They're investing a lot and making sure that all of these things kind of work together and remove the barriers between them. But we also have done a number of number of engagements where we substituted some of the Microsoft technology with some of the things that the customer already had, and then we made those applications very successful. But when you think about it, that the overall cycle should be that, you think about how do I make all of these things interconnected where we can really take advantage of understanding that bigger picture, understanding how these things interrelate, and then choosing a couple of these that are most important to you right now and taking some sort of actions to put them in place. Now, when I talk about setting some priorities, here's an example of, all right, if we want to potentially look at a modern workplace, employee and empowering employees. As you see right here, it's about 50% of value in that particular segment of your objectives could be derived from modern workplace. Your chat, your documents anywhere, your collaborative tools to be able to have your phone to be digital in terms of, I can have my laptop with me in a coffee shop, I can use my cell phone, I can have my home computer, and then I still use that as my phone device, supposed to be needing to be in the office. So business applications, obviously, engaging your customers, optimizing operations, transforming your products. So as you see right here, these are sort of the initiatives that can be mapped to your objectives. And based on where you are, what you need, you can figure out what set of the technology elements could be used to deliver your objectives. So with that said, a couple things for starters to consider. A lot of people think about tools and think about the shiny objects, but really we like to make a recommendation to think about the mindset, the people, the process, and then the tools. So the mindset, I think, is one of the very important elements that people don't think. People is also very important. Do you have the visionaries within your team? Do you have visionaries to support you and your organization that potentially will make the difference? Processes. Do you have the processes in place that were invented in 1950s? And you know what? Maybe those are still applicable. Maybe those are not. And then talk about the tools. So just to make a short list, be clear in what you need. There are a lot of things available. It's easy to get distracted. It's easy to get lost. It's easy to spend a lot of money and time and pursuing a lot of shiny objects, but not necessarily gaining anything. Now, when we're talking about gain, well, no pain, no gain. So fully commit to accept and accept the pain. It really depends on the size of your opportunity that you're trying to seize. You might need to change things around in your organization, change the thinking, change the people who drive some of the decisions and support, change the technology possibly, but you really need to make full commitment. Now, one thing that we always think from our side and we preach to our customers is, what can you do? That's a question you should ask. What can you do to minimize your risk exposure? And the simple answer to that one is show, don't tell. Don't spend time and hours writing the documents and then telling the story. Show how some of these things can potentially benefit your client, benefit your internal organization from taking advantage of potential set of the tools that you are thinking of bringing into the picture or changing the processes. Dream big, but take small steps. You're going to have to understand the long-term objectives, not to make some short-term errors and mistakes. We have organizations that, they go and buy some best of the best applications that they think specifically addresses their specific need for that specific industry, just to find out that if they want any change put in place by that tool that they bought, well, they have to stand in line for 3 years because everybody else in the industry wants that some sort of set of changes. And oh, by the way, whenever that change is put in place, you also potentially just paid for your competitor to also get that change in place. So now that potentially removes your competitive advantage if you going for that. So there are some things where, if you really think about the big picture, you don't have to get to wrap up in doing everything right now. But if you think about a big picture, you can start taking the small steps and planning those small steps based on your long-term planning horizon. Going back to the people, choose who on your team and within your organization can drive, can advocate, can deliver the changes you guys are looking for. Find someone to guide you, whether it's a consulting organization, whether it's an example of an organization who already implemented some of these changes and then achieved some of the objectives that you're looking at. Look to see who can guide you in your journey. And then look at some of the low-hanging fruits. Reporting. Yeah, we can talk about analytics and robots and computers triggering some actions and telling you to go in and put opportunity for this particular customer at this particular price so we can win it based on their buying patterns. But maybe we can actually look at some of the low-hanging fruits and say, look, let's connect your sales data or your customer care data to LinkedIn. Let's show you who are these people. Let's understand who the caller is, what role they have, what work experience they have. So when you're trying to service that customer, you can actually understand what is the perspective and then what is the scope of the conversation that you should be having with that particular contact. So other such simple low-hanging fruits that are available based on the data that you have and then based on the technology that is maybe even already purchased by your organization. So a couple other things is think about innovation. Think about what are 1, 2, or 3 things that you know about your market that you position yourself differently against your competitors that could potentially lead to a significant advantage for you. whether it's selling new products, selling new service, solving some age-long challenges within the industry. But if you could deliver that effectively, can that be a significant advantage for you? If you don't have anything top of your mind, can you potentially survey your employees, survey your customers, survey the industry experts to figure out what is the opportunity that could be taken advantage of from you doing something a little bit differently, but potentially taking advantage of the technology, the general movement of the transformation, digital transformation, and then potentially now start planning for taking advantage of taking advantage of the change, the technology that is available for us. With that said, I want to thank you for joining today's webinar, for listening in. We are always happy to hear from our customers, our prospects, our industry partners, and we're very happy to continue these sort of conversations that we understand are really unique for every organization. It's that they are unique for every industry, but we typically like to think that we can add a lot of value by leveraging our knowledge in the industry trends and the success stories that we see from other organizations. So with that said, should you have any questions, should you have any comments, feel free to reach out to us. Here's my personal email address. You can ping me directly or ping us through our marketing channels, and we'll be more than happy to further continue this conversation, address any questions, any comments, or join you on the joint journey. Thanks very much.